Retiring with $5 million. How nice would that be? And one of the questions a lot of us have is, so how's life really different for people in, let's call it the top 10% of the US that are fortunate enough to retire with $5 million or more? I was a retirement advisor for over 20 years, and I was fortunate. I was able to deal with dozens of people at that level of wealth or higher. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you the 10 ways life is different for people retiring with that level. And the first one is, to get to that level, they probably either had a specialized area of professionalism. Maybe they were an orthopedic surgeon, or they did mergers and acquisition work as an attorney, something super specialized that paid very well. Or more likely, they were a business owner that created something out of nothing, that worked very, very hard for 10, 15, 20 years, where they didn't know what the outcome would be, and fortunately for them, they had a positive outcome. I call that the 20-year overnight success story. So first off, they're grateful. They're incredibly grateful that things played out the way that they did, because it could have gone the other way. Okay. So the first thing is, how much money do people at this level spend? Now, we've all heard the phrase the millionaire next door. You can get to that level as a millionaire next door. So, making a quote unquote normal salary and just being a super, super, super saver, but very, very unusual to get to that level. Maybe $1 to $3 million by being the millionaire next door. So these folks are a little more comfortable spending money than many of us. They still have the issue of, you know, going from being a saver to a spender, but it's not unusual for this group to be spending $20,000 to $30,000 a month, and for them to hold off taking their Social Security until they can maximize it out. So many of them are waiting until they're 70 for Social Security, and I believe at the age 70, it maxes out at about 5,000 a month. And they may, if they're married, if they have a significant other, they may have both been involved in the business or on the payroll of the business, making decent money, so they've capped out Social Security. So in today's dollars, spending $20,000 to $30,000 a month is what I saw as fairly normal. Okay. Um, One of the big things is folks in this category tend to take a fair number of vacations, almost to the point where they feel they're taking too many vacations. 7, 8, 9, 10 vacations. And while that sounds great, oftentimes when I would meet with families that were taking this number of vacations, the couple was exhausted. Particularly the man would say, "Oh, I just wanna hang at home." And so too much of a good thing can be too much of a good thing, but it's not unusual for these folks to be, taking a vacation every other month or more often. I think I've shared in the past that, when I was working as a retirement advisor, excuse me, I lived in a ski town here in Utah. Um, and it was normal for my neighbors to be gone just about any time that there was a school holiday. And that can be fun, but you know what? The kids, when they become teenagers, they just wanted to hang at home. Okay. They may also splurge for first class once or twice a year. A first class ticket. It's one thing to, travel to these remote destinations, these exotic destinations, do a safari in Africa, do a trip around Europe, go to Machu Picchu in South America, see the Taj Mahal in India, go to Hong Kong, whatever it is. It's one thing to do those in coach. It's another thing to pay for that upgrade to being able to lie flat. I was shocked at how much those tickets are, and even for people in the $5 million net worth category that have retired, that jump in price keeps most people, maybe they upgrade to business class, maybe they upgrade to the lowest tier of first class. Um but to the top tier of first class, that can be pretty pricey. And it even causes them to pause, which brings me to another point. There's a phrase in the industry that and this sounds horrible because many of us would love to be in this situation, but, there's the phrase that $5,000,000 is the worst. And it's the worst because you have many of the negatives of being a wealthier person, people asking you for family members asking you for support and help when anything comes up in their life, whatever it is, being on the short list of every not-for-profit in town reaching out to you. So they have many of those shortcomings, but, they're not flying around in a private jet. They're the poorest rich person in the room is the phrase. Okay. Still, life is pretty darn good. Item number 6 is they're probably buying a new car every 3 to 5 years. Now you might be surprised, many folks are perfectly comfortable driving around in their 10 or 12-year-old pickup truck. Um, but there is I would say most of the people in that category are buying a new car every 3 to 5 years, which, as you know, is going up in price quite a bit, the new cars. Here's an interesting thing. They like the idea of a second home, but once you retire, it can be hard to get a mortgage because you don't have that income stream coming in. So for them to buy a second home, and often these second homes are in the $1 to $2 million range, it's hard for them to get financing for it, even if they have the cash in the bank. And so they have to make a decision, for a $1 to $2 million home, do they wanna put 20% to 33% of their net worth in a second home? Probably not, but they really, really like the idea of doing it, but they're not quite comfortable doing that because the type of second home that they want would take too much of their net worth. Okay, let's keep going. Um, the next one is highly likely that they paid for their kids' college education and maybe even have 529 accounts set up for the grandkids. So they fully paid for their kids' college education. And they think a lot about, how could we use this money to provide a foundation and to give our kids the skills that they need to have a fulfilling, thriving life, to be the best versions of themselves. So probably very generous if the kids wanna go back to school and get their master's, get their PhD, go to medical school, become an attorney, probably super supportive of that, maybe supportive of helping their kids buy, a home. Um, Likely not that supportive of helping them buy a new car. So things that provide this foundation for their kids or give them new skills or things that they tend to be very supportive of. But spoiling their kids, many of these folks really, they got very little when they were growing up, and it helped them become the person that they became. And so they're worried about cutting off those aspirations from their kids. Okay, and number 10 is they're likely working with an estate planning attorney and thinking about how do they gift to the next generation. Oftentimes, the goals are at least $1 million per kid. And with the recent passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the lifetime gift tax exemption, I'm not an attorney, look this up on your own, but the lifetime gift tax exemption and the estate tax exemption is now $15 million per person. So they really don't have an issue with efficiently passing money to the next generation. But what they may have an issue is, how do they help that be a tool for their kids to better their life as opposed to their kids sitting around and doing nothing. The phrase is, you want your kids to have enough money that they can do whatever they want in their life, whatever makes them passionate and motivated and giving back to society. But you don't want to give them so much that they do nothing. And speaking of that, choosing wisely for ourselves when we decide to retire, it's why I made this video here, why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.